A little bit ago, I got a comment asking to go over my art supplies, so that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'll section it up into dry materials, into brushes, and into paints, and then into also some sketchbooks that I use. So just starting off with dry materials, I'll just go over the things I use the most of. I have a lot more materials that, you know, as an artist, you kind of just, you see things in a shop and you want to try it out. But overall, the things I use the most are going to be the ones in this video. The one you see the most is going to be the Conte pastel pencils. Also, I'll put everything in a list just below in the description, okay? The Conte pastel pencils I love very much compared to a lot of other pastel pencils. I've tried nearly all of them. I've tried Derwent, Faber, and Caran Dash. Caran Dash are probably like technically the best, but they're very expensive and nearly like they're so good that they're so soft, but they're so soft that like I find them kind of hard to sharpen, and they're even more danger of when you drop a pencil like this that it's going to be cracked all the way through and you're never really going to be able to use it. So they're good, but they're breakable. The Conte Paris for me just have like the nicest consistency, and they're a bit thicker than the rest of the pencils. Like Derwent and Faber are a bit thinner, which they have nice colour range and they're okay, but the thicker pencils just make them easier to sharpen. I think I'd probably go with Faber or Derwent for colour range. I'm not a big fan of the colour range in the pastel pencils, but I don't usually do full colour work, so it doesn't bother me too much. I usually just use these to sketch. Going on, I use the Conte Paris again. You can see I've used this a lot. I've went through loads of these. Is their charcoal pencils. Now that not their pure noir ones, not a big fan of them. They just feel a bit odd, but their charcoal pencils have a really nice scratchy feel to them, which I love. And again, they're a bit thicker than most of them, so it's just easier to sharpen and get a longer point and a flatter edge altogether. Big fan of Conte Paris stuff. Next thing I probably use the most of is just a ballpoint pen. Great for sketches. You can get quite a lot of value with them, and like value range with them, and being able to you know, with a big pen or just any ballpoint pen, you can vary your pressure, so you can get a light line and a dark line, which is not something you can do with something like fine liners, and just they're easy to sketch with. It's kind of nice to go out on the go or kind of work quite small in a small sketchbook and get a few of these out for figure drawings and whatnot. Let me see next. Again, maybe not, I don't use these as much, but colour pencils, Polychromos and Luminance. Either one's good. I find Luminance a bit more expensive and a bit softer, but for me, who only like uses maybe one at a time, I don't carry a full range of colour pencils, Luminance works the best probably. Either way, they kind of both sharpen quite well. Luminance colour wise, like if you're using toned paper and you're using a lighter Luminance colour pencil over it, it seems to come out a bit better than the Polychromos. I think that's just because it's a bit softer. Yeah, they're nice stuff, but Luminance is, again, it's quite expensive compared to Polychromos. Charcoal wise, I usually use, there's like compressed charcoal and willow charcoal and stuff, but I like Nitram's charcoal. The reason with this is you can get a bit of sandpaper and sharpen them up if you like. I'm not going to sharpen the whole thing, but they're not brittle like willow, and you can have a good variation of weight and value instead of like compressed, which is quite black. I like compressed charcoal as well, but like usually if you're working on compressed, I like drawing with the eraser sort of thing. Nitram's just easy because you can get a really nice long point. They're lovely, and they come in different grades. I think this is the HB one, but you can get B, you can get the really soft ones, you can get really chunky ones, you can get H. The HB, I probably maybe still a bit too hard for me. I'd probably prefer B, and their H is maybe too hard. I think these very much depend on the surface you're working on. Like a rough kind of pastel pad might be the best for this stuff. And then just before I go on to other materials, for those like my pencils and whatnot, I use as a pencil sharpener, I like, this is Mobius and Rupert bullet sharpener, just because you can get, it's a brass sharpener, so it has a bit of weight to it. They're like about €5 or €6, and they kind of get a little bit of a longer point compared to most normal sharpeners. They're just quite nice. I like them. Not super necessary, but I like the sharp point you can get with them. And then a lot of times I use a putty rubber, which is just a malleable rubber, basically. This is the Brighton brand Jakar. I like their putty rubbers the best so far that I've used. I've used Derwent and Faber and whatnot, but Jakar for me is the best one. It feels the best out of all of them. It's probably the softest out of all of them, which I like. I don't even use a normal rubber anymore. I pretty much just use putty rubbers. For knives, any old blade you can use. I have an old kind of like pocket knife that I have no idea where it went, but this is again just to sharpen your pencils. Very handy to use, and then just some sandpaper for pastels and charcoal. So I'll move on to Sketchpads now. Okay, coming to Sketchpads, probably the one I'm using the most at the moment is this is Seawhite at Brighton Newsprint. I'm sure any Newsprint pad does the same thing, but I like drawing on Newsprint, and it's just handy to have in a pad. It's fairly cheap if I recall. I think I was in Edinburgh when I bought it, but you get, what was it, 100 sheets, and I'm pretty sure I might have paid under a tenner for it. Newsprint for the most part I don't think really changes in quality. They're just kind of nice stuff to, you know, when you draw on newsprint you don't have to really commit to anything. These are just kind of, I don't think I even have a lot filled in this one yet, but it's very nice for pastels and charcoal. You don't have to try too hard. Love newsprint, big fan, cheap, easy to use. Next up, a bit more higher quality, is the Strathmore toned grey. Big fan for charcoal and colour pencils, works really well. That grey, it's weird because it's very smooth, but it grips the charcoal and quite a lot of other things quite well. I could probably use this a bit more. I think this is a new one. Yeah, because I have a full Strathmore pad somewhere that I filled up along the way. You probably can't even see it. Actually, with colour pencil you can't really see like this is a full drawing, but I don't even know if it's coming through in the video. Really nice paper. A bit more expensive, but you do get a lot of sheets out of it, and it's a bit bigger than A4. Let's see how many sheets you get in this. 50 sheets. So, you know, you'd be, and if you work on the other side, you have lots of paper to work with. Very nice grey. Lovely. Anyway, next one. That's mostly again for charcoal, pastel and colour pencil. Next one, which I mainly just use for graphite. Oh, actually I forgot about talking about graphite pencils. Graphite pencils I use are just, again, Conte Parry. Big fan for just how soft they are and how they sharpen. This one here is the Hahnemuhle Drawing and Sketching Sketchbook. Big fan of it for graphite work. I think the graphite works really well. I use a bit of charcoal sometimes, but it all feels very nice. And again, you get like a ton of pages for what you pay for it. It's fairly inexpensive, if I recall. A great sketchbook altogether. I've used this quite a lot, if I recall. Yeah, loads of drawing on this, I'm pretty sure. Might actually need to be halfway through it. Yeah, a great pad. Mostly for graphite. I think it has a really nice surface. I haven't tried toning it with watercolor, but it's something I want to do. Again, I think it could take a light wash of watercolor. Not exactly sure the grammage. I think it's 120 to 160 gram. It's good stuff. And then what I've been using for oil painting, there's not going to be any sketches in this because I've actually just taken them all out, is the, let me see if I can get it in, Arches oil pad. It's quite an expensive thing to buy up front. Like I think for this size, which is 31 by 41, was about €40, but that's 12 sheets, and I consider this paper better than most pre-made canvas you can get. It's nearly on the quality for me as painting on linen. So if you're buying 12 very good quality canvas, it'd be a lot more expensive than what this is, and it's just easier to store sheets for me anyway. I find myself going to be painting on Arches oil pads for quite a while. I'll see if I can just find an example of something that I painted on it just to show you guys. Yeah, like this is just a little sketch I did, a figure sketch that I did on this paper. I just cut the sheet down in half, but it's great use. You can see, actually, do I have another sheet underneath? Yeah. It's very nice. This is, I think, done in, I think I did this in the same day. So quite wet on wet, and I used a bit of turpentine. No, I just used medium to kind of start it off, and then I layered thick paint on top of it. Took it really well. There's not really any warping going on. Great paper. I'm in love with it, to be honest with you. So what will I go on to next? Maybe just brushes and mediums to finish this guy up. as I say, brushes and mediums, I realise I haven't done paint, so I'll do some paint after this. Medium wise, I use turpentine usually just to tone the paper or canvas I'm working on, very little of it, and then I just never use the turpentine again. It's just a tone to, I don't usually use straight turpentine. It's not good for your head and the sense of smell. Use it in a place that's airy. Bad for you, kind of. Then the next thing I use, I know it's a turpentine bottle, but this is actually a mix that I made, which is, I think I'd say about 70% Standoil, 30% turpentine. I'm not exactly sure on the measurements. It's just I kind of mix it until it feels right to me. Like I know the way I like it. Standoil is just a very thick linseed. I think this is a pretty thick linseed oil, and then I just kind of cut it down with the turpentine. And it's just I use this really when I'm blocking in color, and then once all the color's blocked in on the canvas and I know where I am, I pretty much just use paint and I leave this guy for a while. Don't use too much of it. So like I bought a bottle of Standoil and turpentine, still have some left in that, and this will last me ages. Again, I try to keep things as cheap as I can. Right. Then for brushes, almost all my brushes, you can see they're well used. Yeah, pretty much all of them are Vinci Maestro brushes. 7902 is the series, and they're just really nice Filbert brushes. I love Filberts. The only other thing I might use is maybe around sometimes, but even then, I think Filberts are just the beans on toast. The mark making and the versatility with them is just amazing. I don't really like the flats because I don't like that kind of like hard edge of the paint, and rounds just don't do it for me in terms of coverage. So I like a Filbert. This is a long Filbert. This is 7900, and I just, for size wise, I just use a mix. Depends on what size of canvas I'm working on. Now I won't use all these brushes when I'm painting. I might use maybe 4 brushes. This was a round brush, but you can see it's been a bit banjaxed. I don't mind also when brushes are a bit destroyed. It creates a nice texture. I'm not super finicky when it comes to the it's not that hyper realist stuff. I like texture of paint, so this is all just good stuff to me. If it's a bit destroyed. This is actually a flat, I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember using the flat. Anyway, yeah, I usually stick to just like 3 brushes when I'm painting, like a big, a medium, and a small. Doesn't bother me too much. Quality wise, I think the Vinci's just have a nice texture to them. They pick up a lot of paint. They're not too soft. Like I like the Escoda bristles are quite good too, but they're very soft compared to these brushes, which is okay. It depends what you're going for. And I don't usually like synthetics when I'm painting in oils. Not a big fan of the way they feel. And again, like if you buy bristles, they're not the most expensive things. You're gonna buy one brush and then you take care of it, and it lasts you like months to years. The only thing I'll actually should have brought that in. If you're cleaning your brushes, I use either a bit of this turpentine to just wipe away the oil paint, or there is the Vinci brush soap. Any brush soap will do, or any actually soap that's just a bar, and is made with like animal fats or vegetable fats. That will take the oil out of your brush. Okay, so these are my main paints. This is like basically what I use as a palette all the time. I'm just very comfortable with these colours, and they're just very easy to mix with. You can see they're also very well used. They're Michael Harding and Sennelier. I mostly pretty much use these paints. I might not use Michael Harding anymore because it's become very difficult to get it in Ireland. It's just very good quality paint, and it seems to last me a long time. Like I paint quite a bit, but this titanium white has lasted me nearly over a year. I don't need a lot of it for how far it goes. It's just good quality stuff. And the big thing about these paints is that they're all single pigment. If you don't, basically what that means is that they have, if you look at the back of your paint here, has a little pigment and then PY3. That means it's the PY3 pigment in it. There's a pigment index online you can find, but same with Scarlet Lake here by Michael Harding is PR170, which is naphthol azo. Again, it's just one pigment in your paint, which means when you go to mix with other paint tubes, it will kind of be a bit pure and won't muddy as fast. If you see on the back of a tube multiple pigments, that means they've already done the pre-mixing for you to get to a color. Which can be a bit, it can kind of, again, your colours muddy quicker. and I think with single pigments you get used to your colour a little bit more. I go quite cheap with these, even though these are the good stuff in terms of oil painting. I never really go beyond like a series 2 or 3. Like, I'm not going to pay more than €20 for an oil paint, because that's just not feasible for me. So like, I use titanium white, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. Those pretty much never change because they're always series 1 and they're pretty much always available. This right now is lemon yellow and Scarlet Lake. They're series 2s. Sort of just a tiny bit more expensive, but again, I will change up my yellows and the reds depending on what's available. I'm basically just always looking for like a semi-transparent, semi-opaque middle, like not too orange red, not too orange or not too green yellow, and then a not too purple or not too orange red. And again, as long as it's single pigment, I'm good to go with it. As long as it's not too expensive, you'll get used to what it looks like. Maybe just don't go for it and that's too transparent. Like ultramarine and burnt umber is quite transparent already, but they're dark colours, so I don't mind working with them. They're actually, well, don't mind. I like working with them, I suppose. Is there anything more to talk about these paints? Quality wise, fantastic. I find Michael Hardin's just a thicker paint. Like, you might need a little bit of medium to start that off, while Sennelier is made with safflower oil, so it's actually quite fluid already. It has kind of different finish actually compared to Michael Harding as well. But you know, when you're mixing, it's whatever. They're not. I find myself not worried about the finish. I just want to paint. You know. I would suggest, if you're getting into oil painting or just doing oil painting, do get the good quality stuff, but just stick to the lower series. You know, people will tell you to buy cadmiums and cobalt and stuff, but whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not going to pay 60 quid for an oil paint, unless, I mean, if you want to go for it. But the only difference between cobalt and ultramarine is that cobalt's like opaque, whatever. You know what I mean? And then same with like your cadmium yellows and cadmium reds, they're opaque, but I don't care. I'll do what I can with it. I'm not paying €40 anyway. Yeah, keep yourself cheap, keep it all simple, is the only thing I'll say for your art supplies. Don't go too crazy. I think you'll get to, especially like, you know, when I'm talking about the Sketchpads there, like that's why Newsprint is like my favorite thing to sketch on at the moment, because you don't care, you just kind of let yourself enjoy the drawing and the painting, you know. Is there anything else I need to show you guys when in terms of art supplies? Not really, just get yourself kind of an easel, that works well, and then some space. Right. Thanks for joining me, guys.